Hi, it's Stuart from the Courtyard Cafe. Welcome back to the kitchen. I'm going to cook something savoury today. It's an old recipe which my mum used to make. It's not written down anywhere, but it's so simple you don't really need anything written down. It's a pork casserole using 500 grams of pork fillet. I've got about a dozen mushrooms and a large onion. It's quite busy at the cooker. In this saucepan I've got some carrots steaming in a steamer. They're on top of a pot which has potatoes boiling. The potatoes will be the top of the casserole. Here is a pot of celery soup which I made. You can use a tin of celery soup, and that's how originally the recipe would have been done when I first had it as a child. And here the pan with a tablespoon of oil in it. Just sauteing off the onion in the oil for a couple of minutes, just until it begins to get translucent. I don't want the onions to take on any colour because they'll spoil how the casserole looks in the end. Next, add the pork fillet to the pan. What I have done is trim the pork fillet. I've cut it up into little nugget-sized pieces, which will also help it to cook quite quickly as well. If you want to make the celery soup that I'm going to use in the casserole, it's a beautiful soup in its own right, but it's a perfect sauce to go with the pork and the mushrooms that I'll be adding in a few moments. It's 1 head of celery and about 3 potatoes with an onion, 2 stock pots, either chicken or vegetable, and a litre of water. And it doesn't have any cream, any milk, and you see the consistency. It's like a lovely thick sauce. It's perfect to use in the casserole, and it's just the potatoes which thicken it. The pork's cooking out quite nicely. I just want to give it an initial seal in the pan here before I add the mushrooms. Add the mushrooms to the pan, and again mix it through gently. I want to get some of the cooking liquid onto the mushrooms, which will start to let them in turn cook down. The potatoes are now boiling in the bottom pan. The carrots that I'll serve with the casserole are steaming on top. Soup is ready to go, and the pork, mushroom and onion mixture has cooked down quite nicely. It's just simply a matter of adding the soup to this. What I've done there is add 5 ladles. From this, I will get 5 good portions of casserole. The casserole mix has come to the boil, and what I'm going to do now is put the lid on and let that simmer probably for about 20 minutes. I've taken the lid off. I'm going to allow the casserole to reduce down a little bit because the sauce is always nicer, a little bit thicker. That's the pork casserole ready. It has reduced down quite nicely, and what I'm going to do is portion it into 3 add the potato slices across the top so that they form a sort of lid on the top. This will be baked in the oven, which will crisp it up, with some cheese which is melted over the top of it, and just the last few pieces of potato. And this one is more or less done, bar the cheese. Grate some cheese. I'll put that over the top of the potatoes and put it into the oven just to crisp it up and brown it off. It doesn't take a great deal of cheese because this is a mature cheddar that I'm using, so it's quite strong. But it really does add to the flavour of this when it's finished baking, and you get a nice crisp top. We're ready now for the final stage with this pork casserole, which is putting it into the oven. I've got it preheated to 230 degrees. It's very, very hot. Really, all I want to do is crisp up the potatoes and cheese on top because the filling of the casserole is already cooked and hot. There's the casserole bubbling out of the oven. And some veg to go with that. It's absolutely hot. And my favourite way to finish this off, some carrots. That to me